question also.
You got it? Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and start with reciting the Namo Tassa and the three refuges for those who'd like to join. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi, Dhammang Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammang Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Sanghaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammang Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi. So friends, welcome back to this Wednesday evening Zoom program after a 1 week break. So the topic of this week's suttas or discussion are two well-known suttas within the Pali Canon, and this is a continuation in my book, The Masterful Teachings of Gautama Buddha, where we kind of left off in the previous weeks, the chapter of using the Dhamma wisely. So this first sutta is the Vakkali Sutta. And most of you probably, hopefully have read it, but I'm just going to summarize it briefly and then see if there's any questions on that. So there was a monk who was sick. He was very sick. He had been sick for a long time and bedridden. And he had really, wanted to see the Buddha, but he couldn't, he didn't have enough energy, or he was too sick to actually go and visit the Buddha in person, even if he was staying maybe nearby even in the same monastery, perhaps. So the Buddha found out that this monk wished to see him, so out of compassion, the Buddha went to see this monk. And so when the Buddha came, he asked the monk if he was, getting along despite the sickness. And he said, no, I'm, very ill and I'm not doing well. And then he asked if the monk had any regrets, before he may die from this illness. So he was asking him if he had any regrets from his Dhamma practice or his attainments or anything. And the monk seemed to say, no, he didn't have any regrets. And so the Buddha said, well, then, why did you want me to come? Because usually people would summon him if they had some perplexing Dhamma questions. So then the monk said, no, Lord, the Master, I've wanted to see, I've been ill for a long time and I didn't have a chance to see the Buddha. And before I died, I wanted to have one last chance to see the Buddha in person, to gaze upon the Buddha's, beautiful body, because I said the Buddha was a very impressive person, his physical stature and sort of the aura that he gave off and things like that. And so yeah, he wanted to see the Buddha and pay his respects, so he struggled to try to get off his bed and, pay his respects. And the Buddha said, enough, Vakkali, don't bother yourself about wanting to worship this body of the Buddha. And then this is when he gave his very famous line that whoever sees the Buddha sees the Dhamma, and whoever sees the Dhamma sees the Buddha. So in that statement, the Buddha is implying that looking at the body of the Buddha is not the real Buddha, that the real Buddha is the wisdom and the enlightened state that the mind had attained. It's the deep wisdom and the liberation, that liberated state of consciousness that he attained is really the real Buddha, the deeper meaning of the word Buddha. So that was the importance. Just looking at the body is not going to get you enlightenment, although it can give you inspiration, of course. And that's why there are, Buddha images and things like that. But really seeing the Buddha is getting a glimpse of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, and essentially getting a glimpse of, especially of entering the stream. When one attains the first stage of enlightenment, entering the stream, you get a partial glimpse of the Buddha, and then only going through the next three levels as you can continue to eradicate more and more of the defilements and the 10 fetters. And then really when attaining the final stage of full enlightenment, then one really sees the Buddha. So, because that's the real glimpse and immersion in the Dhamma. So that's the meaning of this sutta, because a lot of people, they want to go and bow to all these Buddha statues, and they're thinking they're seeing the Buddha by going around and worshiping and bowing the Buddha statues. And so, again, that's not really seeing the Buddha. And this also has a bearing on the next sutta that we're going to go over as well. But I know there was at least one person that may have had a question about this sutta. So I invite that person to ask a question about this particular sutta.
Thank you, Bhante.
You're welcome.
So my question stems from what I've been thinking about for the past 2 weeks. The Buddha said, whoever sees the Dhamma sees the Buddha, whoever sees the Buddha sees the Dharma. He also said, whoever sees the Dhamma sees dependent origination, and whoever sees dependent origination sees the Buddha. Dependent origination, the 12 links of dependent origination, shows one what happens, what one goes through when one is ignorant of suffering and acquires it through his life, and he relives the life, and he goes through the 12 stages unto death. And entwined within dependent origination is transcendental dependent arising, when one understands suffering as a condition for faith, which leads one to knowledge of the destruction of the taints, which is liberation. The Buddha gave us many ways to reach nirvana. He gave us the 4 foundations of mindfulness. He gave us vipassana and samadhi meditation, samadhi and vipassana meditation. He gave us the Brahma Viharas and vipassana and the 7 factors of enlightenment to also reach nirvana. So we have many, many ways to reach nirvana. And when we get there, it's the unconditioned state. And the last paragraph of the Vakkali Sutta, which we just went over, it states, That Bhikkhus is Mara, the evil one, searching for the consciousness of the clansman Vakkali, wondering where now has the consciousness of the clansman Vakkali been established. However, Bhikkhus, with consciousness unestablished, the clansman Vakkali has attained final nibbana. So we understand that consciousness is what brings us from one life to another. That carries with it our ignorance of suffering and therefore new life. Vakkali becomes an arahat, he kills himself, becomes an arahat and reaches nirvana, the unconditioned state. So we know that the unconditioned state contains the Buddha or the Tathagatas. It contains no arising, no vanishing, no change in state. It also contains space. So the conditioned state, is it just pure energy there? It can't be the immaterial state of the Brahmas, where they have no bodies and it's just some sort of etheric state of being. What should we, did the Buddha tell us what we can see there, since obviously he saw it? Is it pure energy? Is it space? What should we think of it as being?
Well, those questions, trying to find out about those things might fall into the category of the imponderables, that it's not easy to explain that in words. And that's why the Buddha always come back to just concentrating on the suffering that's in front of in your mind right now, and understanding how to deal with those factors of our mind that keep ourself, the dependent origination, how that keeps on going on and on and on. Once you understand that, and once you've attained the stage of enlightenment, then these other questions concerning that, is it pure energy, is it this or that, those may be resolved in your mind. But I don't think that that is important for really, for practicing the Dhamma. Now, you're right that, yes, dependent origination is really the Dhamma, because within dependent origination, all of the different aspects of Dhamma are there, karma and rebirth and, craving, grasping, becoming, and so on. So, and it's basically it's the second and third noble truth, the arising of suffering and the ceasing of suffering. So, that's why usually it's considered, when you have that glimpse, when you enter the stream, or you gain these deep insights, then you understand paticca samuppada. And all those different aspects of the teaching that you mentioned, practicing Brahma Viharas, practicing Samadhi, Vipassana, the four foundations of mindfulness, 7 factors of enlightenment, all of these are ways of helping to condition the mind, or to make the mind pliable and focused enough to be able to get those deep insights into anicca, dukkha, and anatta.
So, Bhante, would it be a good idea just to say that it will be a personal experience whenever I experience it at death, or if I'm fortunate enough in this lifetime to get a vision of nirvana, I should just leave it at that?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay. Thank you, Bhante, for your time and for your counsel.
Just in the process of practicing, the 4 foundations of mindfulness or vipassana, combined with, the concentration. I'm going to talk about a little bit that in a few moments, I think. But anyway, so yeah, it's just a matter of getting more and more insights into the mind and the various stages and levels that consciousness goes through in that process of, gaining mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. And all those questions get resolved through those deep insights. That's why the Buddha, always emphasized in just doing that, and all these other kind of questions, don't let them, distract your mind. People get distracted by, I want to attain that state or this state, and so on. They hear about all these jhanas and what are they, and so on. But, just through the practice of developing the 4 foundations of mindfulness, which includes gaining the jhana, then that's how the Buddha really taught it. And the 4 foundations, 7 factors of enlightenment, those are included within that practice.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, so that comes now to this next sutta that I want to go over. And these were the last instructions of the Buddha before he passed into parinibbana. And, after teaching for 45 years and, establishing the order of monks and having many monks and nuns attaining full enlightenment, and even many lay people attaining the various stages of entering the stream, once returning, even never returning. It came time for his passing away. And, he was telling the people, I've exhorted my disciples in so many ways. And I've set forth the teaching without making any distinction between esoteric and exoteric doctrines. Some teachings claim to have the secret teachings that they only reveal to special people, or some hidden teachings that they only teach. But the Buddha, didn't hold back. People were ready to hear the teachings. He taught them. Anyway, but the important part, and then when he was there, laying under the twin sal trees, flowers were raining down, and so many people were coming to worship the Buddha, and they were crying and said, the Buddha is going to leave us. And even it said that the trees and the sal trees, it wasn't their season for flowers, but yet they bloomed and flowers were falling down on the ground around the Buddha. And he said, celestial flowers, heavenly sandalwood powder from the sky rained down and were strewn upon the body of the Buddha in the worship of the Buddha. And the sound of heavenly voices and instruments was in the air. But he said, this is not the way, Ananda, he was speaking to his disciple Ananda, how people respect and venerate, worship, and honor the Buddha in the highest degree. But whatever monk or layman or laywoman abides by the teaching, lives uprightly in the teaching, walks in the way of the Dhamma, it is in them that the Buddha is respected, venerated, and esteemed. Actually, he said, you should be an island unto yourselves, be a refuge unto yourselves, seeking no external refuge, with the teacher as your island, the teaching as your refuge. And then how is one an island unto oneself, a refuge unto oneself, seeking no external refuge? And then he says, he dwells contemplating the body in the body, earnestly, clearly comprehending and mindful, after having overcome desire and sorrow for the world. He dwells contemplating feelings in the feelings, mind in the mind, mental objects in the mental objects, ardent, clearly comprehending and mindful, overcoming desire and aversion in regard to the things of the world. And knowing for yourself from your own experience, these certain things are good to do, these other things are not good to do or blameworthy. And take what is good to do, that means practicing the Dhamma, and enter and abide into them. That this way one becomes an island unto oneself, a refuge unto one's self. And actually during this time, it's not in this particular excerpt that I've written here, but there was one of his monks named Venerable Anuruddha, who was out in the forest, maybe several hundred yards or a quarter mile away, out in the more secluded forest where there weren't so many people around, and meditating. And then Ananda and some of the senior monks were kind of blaming him and saying, "What, the master is dying and you're out here meditating on your own, not coming to bow and worship, the body of the Buddha." And then the Buddha actually praised that Anuruddha, saying that is the way people really respect the Buddha. What I just read there about the four foundations of mindfulness, so it was the four foundations of the mindfulness that the Buddha was talking about. That is how one makes an island for oneself and makes the Dhamma one's refuge, because that's the whole world. The whole world, from the moment you're born to the moment you die, is simply the sense impressions and the way the mind reacts to them moment by moment, and the reactions and karmic actions that we do as a result of those, accumulating karma our whole lifetime. And so, it comes back to that, the practice of the four foundations of mindfulness is really the core teachings that the Buddha taught. And all the other things, attaining samadhi and jhanas and practicing Brahma viharas and, practicing sila and everything, are just ways to condition the mind, to strengthen and fortify the mind, to overcome certain gross impediments, so that one can then actually effectively practice in the four foundations of mindfulness and make and reach those levels of Magga and Phala. So now this comes to another question that I received by email from one of you. And basically it's about the four foundations of mindfulness. So it seems that these things all came together. This question plus the suttas that I was going over. How can one understand the instructions in the Satipatthana Sutta? It says, one contemplates the body in the body. One contemplates feelings in the feelings. One contemplates the mind states in the mind states. One contemplates the Dhamma in the Dhamma. Now, some people might find this phrases, perplexing or confusing. So I'll try to, explain it the way that I, see it and the way that I believe it was meant to be. Is contemplating the Dhamma and the Dhamma. This is not an intellectual exercise. Just repeating, being able to repeat the whole the sutta by heart, but contemplating the body in the body. Now, the body is basically, any of the four material elements. But all the parts of the body and the breathing, you're contemplating those things within the body at the same time. In other words, like mindfulness of breathing. Okay, the breathing is a body, considered a body, the body of breath, the whole in breath, the pause, the out breath, and the pause. That was one definition that the Buddha gave about the breathing is a body. But it's occurring within this larger body. The breathing doesn't happen without a body. So, we're contemplating the four foundations of mindfulness, and these things are not separated. A lot of people try to separate these things and practice anapanasati as something apart from the physical body, just trying to concentrate on a tiny little sensation at the tip of the nose and forget about the rest of the body. The Buddha didn't really see it that way or describe it that way. So, but anyway, so you're contemplating the breath body within the larger body, as I so often do in the guided meditations. You're feeling the expanding and contracting of the breathing, and you're at the same time you're aware that this is happening within the larger body, and this body lives off of oxygen. So anyway, you're contemplating that the breathing within the body, and then also any of the sensations that arise. All the body sensations are also the material vibrations. And so these are happening within the body. And, there's so many things happening all at the same time. But while you're focusing on one, you're also tuning into impermanence. Or let's say the 32 body part contemplations. Well, you're contemplating head hair. Well, the head hair is just, on part of this larger body, and so is the blood and all the other material elements. And you can't really separate them. They're all there together. Thousands and millions of sensations are going on. And what the Buddha wanted us to see was the impermanence of each of these sensations was just arising and vanishing, arising and vanishing. And with that, then the feelings, each of these material vibrations is producing a feeling, pleasure or painful feeling. You can't just separate out one. There's so many. You can feel so many different sensations on the body. And even in one, looking at one pain, for example, that pain is made up of many, many little separate sensations. So you're contemplating the feelings within the feelings. There's a vast category. There's so many feelings going through, so many material vibrations going through. And you may be focusing on one in particular, but still at the same time, there's other ones occurring as well that may pull your attention away from that. And then the mind states, all these feelings are triggering off our mind states. And there's so many mind states that are continually changing in our mind. And that's what the Buddha wanted us to observe, is how quickly all of these material vibrations, the feelings, the mental states are constantly changing in impermanence. That's, the whole Buddha's teaching about the insights is the insight into impermanence. And it just doesn't mean, the body dies. No, it's impermanence to see under the lens of concentrated awareness, how quickly all these material vibrations, the feelings they produce, the mental states that are triggered off, and then the Dhammas, even contemplating the Dhamma within the Dhamma, and those categories of the 5 hindrances, of the 5 aggregates, of the 6-fold sense sphere, the 7 factors of enlightenment. You can't separate all these things. All these things are intimately interwoven and bound together continuously. And by being aware that while we're contemplating the 4 foundations of mindfulness, we are developing the 7 factors of enlightenment just through that, the development of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. But again, as we all know, the first step of the mindfulness of the body is gaining concentration with the breathing. But that is for the purpose of getting centered and grounded in the body, not for getting absorbed in some amorphous little wispy sensation, at the tip of the nose. This is something, from the Visuddhimagga and so on. But anyway, people can do that and gain concentration, but the real way the Buddha taught it was to use the breathing to get centered in the body and you can gain jhana while being aware of the expanding and contracting sensations, even though that'll be argued amongst others and so on. But anyway, you use the breathing to get grounded and centered in the body, and then the body itself, all those millions of sensations and the process of impermanence, the cellular vibrations that are happening, and then seeing all the feelings that are being produced by them, how our mind gets attached, or we identify with these material, vibrations and calling it, oh, this is my body, and taking it for self, and we get, develop that attachments and the concept of this is me and mine. So the whole purpose of developing the insights is to see how this is just a process, a conditioned process that's going on, and ultimately there is no owner or controller, and even our consciousness is without any static or owner or controller to it. So all these, that's how you contemplate the body and the body, feelings and feelings. You're contemplating them in that whole body within the mass of many sensations and feelings. These are going on. So that's the way that I would, explain that. It's not an intellectual exercise. You're observing it as it's occurring, in the moment, each moment, and moment by moment. So, having said that, if there's any other questions about any of that, see if we can clarify any more of it.
Bhante, may I ask a question?
Yes.
So, I know that we have been doing the meditation. So, I think we have been counting the breath, like a breathing in, and we know that we are breathing in, and we count 1, 2, and 3 up to. So, when we count and we are present up to the breath number 10, does it? Is that right that at that point we can say that we have enough concentration, and we are present?
Well, some people might and some people may not. So it depends. You yourself will know. By the time you're able to follow 10 breaths,
Yeah.
If you still have quite a lot of wandering thoughts, then you haven't gained enough concentration. You can continue to do it for a second time. Or once counting the breaths to 10, reverse the count from 10 back to 1. That requires even more concentration. So you will feel a state of concentration when it happens, because you will feel a lightness in the body, and you won't have so many thoughts. Still, thoughts may be coming and going, but are not enough to get you totally lost from it. And you start to feel some, piti sensations, like very pleasant, very comfortable and relaxed and pleasurable kind of feelings, like, those subtle vibrations of the body, when you can feel a lot of kind of subtle vibrations in different parts of the body. That helps to keep the mind tranquil, because it's a very pleasing thing. So the mind doesn't want to think about anything else. It just wants to feel those pleasurable feelings. So it helps you to stay concentrated. So that is how you determine, when you start to feel that is the hallmark of the concentration. And it goes to many deeper and deeper levels. But usually that would be enough then to start practicing developing insight, or being alert for other sensations coming and going. I've mentioned so many times, the concentration is to use the breath as an anchor, right? So for the mind not to get lost in thoughts or go to sleep, or to be harassed by the hindrances. And you don't have to have perfect one-pointed concentration for that to happen. But you'll, once you can, when you're able to, count the breaths from 1 to 10 without getting, lost or distracted, you can continue to do it even longer if you like. But at a certain point, you will naturally, let's say while you're observing the breath, you feel some stinging sensation on your face. Then you'll be aware of that painful sensation arising, even while the breath is still there, but it doesn't take you away from the breath. That sustained application of the concentration keeps the mind from, getting lost, and you can observe it. Okay, there's a sensation there. You can observe how it's building up to a peak, but without the mind getting sucked into it. Or a sound, if a sound is being heard, or just some other thoughts come, you can observe them, but without the mind getting, sort of sucked into them and distracted by them. That's the real point of the concentration.
Yeah. So when you are on the concentration, you still keep your concentration, even if you are aware of impermanence. Is that right? Like, even if...
The concentration is the awareness from moment to moment. That means the mind is concentrated. This is a kind of a misunderstanding of some aspect of concentration. People, they call it absorption concentration, but I think becomes confusing, because people think it's becoming absorbed in one object, you become oblivious to everything else. Now, you can do that kind of concentration, but that's what the yogis did. That's why the Buddha called this samma samadhi, right concentration. And it has to lead to developing insights. It has to lead on to practicing the 4 foundations of mindfulness.
Okay.
So that is why the breathing is always there in the background. That's the applied and sustained thought, and that that level of the first jhana, and then that's how you can then start practicing observing your feelings, mental states, and so on, because the mind is not going to sleep, or it's not getting lost in thoughts. Those are the 2 primary worst hindrances, are falling asleep, or the mind losing that connection to the body.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay.
Bhante, just as an aside, breathing in and out sometimes reminds me of the 10 ox herding pictures. It just brings me that vision, which is great because it helps you maintain the concentration.
Yes. Yeah, there's different ways of, practicing the concentration, but it's the effect of it is, what is it doing for you? Where does it lead your mind? And all these practices is what is occurring in the mind, and how is it helping your mind to stay grounded in the present moment and developing that insight into impermanence, not letting the mind get distracted, and then gradually letting go of the sense of self. Because that is the real transcendence, is when the feeling of an individual I that's watching all these things starts to fade away because you're no longer clinging or identifying with them. That's really the path for liberating the mind from the ego consciousness.
Bhante, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the applied and sustained thought. I was thinking about my own meditation. Sometimes I'll think about something like, this is consciousness, this is not self, and it kind of get on a little bit of a train and then distract myself and lose concentration. So I was wondering, what should applied and sustained thought during meditation actually look like?
Well, let's take the breathing, for example, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When you first start meditating, you can only keep your attention on one in-breath or out-breath before the mind starts thinking about something else or goes to sleep or starts, scratching an itch or something. But as you continue, you keep applying. So the applied thought means you make the effort. It's the effort to apply your attention to the object, such as the breathing. And as you keep applying it over and over it, and that helps to weaken the hindrances, it starts staying there by itself. That's sustained thought. That means the mind is now staying on the object without having to apply so much effort. So that is the applied and sustained thought, and that's a hallmark of the first jhana, that breathing is staying in your mind. Now, it doesn't mean you become oblivious to other things. That means it's front and center in the consciousness, but you still have awareness of things going on around you. And the mind is not getting distracted by those things. So that's the applied and sustained thought. And as you maintain that longer and longer, then, that falls away. It becomes, now the mind, there's no more effort involved. And it's with the object by itself. Or the object may vanish, actually. The breathing may even vanish. And now you're just left with piti, sukha, and one-pointedness. And we use the object to get concentrated. Once you get concentrated, the object, that one object that you start with, is no longer important, really. So and that is when you can really start practicing the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And you can tune into impermanence. Because if you're clinging to the breath, you slow down the ability to see so many other things arising and vanishing. So the breathing that's why the Buddha in the Satipatthana Sutta, in the mindfulness, in the Anapanasati Sutta, the breath can remain there even while you're contemplating too. And the breath is always there in the background, but you don't have to pay attention to it anymore. It stays there by itself. And that is what helps to keep the mind steady. And that's why you can observe and analyze the other aggregates and so on. But the mind is kept in a concentrated state. It's right in front of your eyes, so to speak. Yeah.
I think that makes sense. So then when you say observe and analyze the aggregates, at that point, that would be more thought as well, right?
You can use that kind of discursive thought. That's part of right thought. That's part of investigation of the Dhamma. And when you read the Satipatthana Sutta, you see that very clearly. And that's after you've already used the breathing to gain that concentration. You understand how the hindrances arise. You understand how they continue. You understand how they cease. That requires a certain amount of reflection.
That makes sense.
And the same with the feelings. How did this painful feeling arise? How does it continue? How does it cease? And so on. So, but this isn't abstract thinking. You're observing it as it's happening. So it's not abstract thinking. You're observing it as it's happening. And it's because of that clarity and the concentration of the mind. So it's not like a normal thinking. In the beginning, you might do some of that to get the mind on the track, but later it becomes intuitive understanding.
That makes sense. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay. Oh, there's something in the chat. I don't know if that's already been covered or not. Let me see. Look at this chat. Okay, you can read that on your own, that chat. It's not really a question, it's just a comment on how to use the Dhamma wisely. That's the main thing, how to use the Dhamma wisely. And that's why right understanding is important. Okay, friends, so that was a good little discussion. Now, so let us go ahead and take a few minutes break and come back and do a few stretches and get into the breathing body, okay? All right. See you back in a few minutes.
Sadhu, sadhu, Bhante. Thank you.
Okay, friends, so try to stand straight, keeping the feet a few inches apart. Just relax your arms at the sides. Just gently close your eyes. Feel your feet pressing the floor. Relax the shoulders, feel the arms hanging from the shoulders. Feel your head balanced on top. Feel the eyes and the sockets. Try to feel the outline of the standing body in the mind's eye. Then begin some deep, slow breathing. Taking about 3 seconds to expand your abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Holding the air in the lungs for 2 or 3 seconds. And feeling the last bit of air go out of the lungs on the out breath. Just cultivating this basic mindfulness, present moment mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we'll combine this breathing with these simple movements. Repeating each one 3 times. So on the next in-breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch your head back, look up at the back of your hands, stretch upwards, out breath, turn the palms down, touch the top of your head. And again, in-breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, stretch upwards, bend backwards a bit. Out breath, touch the top of the head. The third time, hold the upward stretch longer. Bend back a little more. Feel the sensation. Release the fingers and the out-breath, arms back to the side. Close the eyes, feel the increased body sensations, especially in your fingers or hands, increased pulsations. Feel the clothing touching the skin. Again, try to hold that outline of the body in the mind's eye. Just remember the present moment of standing, standing, standing. Letting go of your thoughts. Let the thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Keep the sensations of the body in the front of the awareness. You feel the breath going in, but at the same time you can feel so many other sensations coming and going in the background. That's contemplating body and the body, feeling the breathing within the larger body. Yeah, the next in-breath, lift up on the balls of the feet while raising the arms over the head in this way. Face the hands toward each other and stretch up. Out breath, come back down. Hands to the side, heels to the floor. Use the in-breath to help lift up the body, like blowing up a helium balloon. Out. In. Out. Just close the eyes. Feel the outline of the body. Feel all those increasing sensations. Breathing, blood pulsing, clothing touching the skin. Observing the body in the body, not looking outside the body, looking in the body. Next, we'll do the side bendings. On the in-breath, raise both arms up and keep your fingers and arms straight, close to the head. On the out-breath, bend over the right side, or as you comfortably can. Keep the arms parallel to each other. In-breath, lift up. And the other side, out-breath. In, into the right, out breath. Once more to each side. The out breath, lower the arms. Close the eyes. Keep feeling the body. All those different sensations you feel is one part of the body within the larger body. Each cell, you could say, is one body, but within the larger body, body in the body. So each vibration is just one of millions in the larger body. of impermanence. And all those body sensations are producing a feeling, pleasurable, painful, or neutral feeling. Particular feelings within so many other ones. Contemplating feelings and the feeling. Okay, next we'll do the knee bending. On the next in-breath, lift up on the balls of the feet again while raising the arms up front for balance. On the out-breath, bend the knees, lower down, balancing on the balls of the feet. Try to come down into the squatting position if you can. And take a deep breath, feel the muscles in the legs pushing the body up. All the way up. In out breath. In. Out. In. Out breath, relax. Feel the increased heartbeat. Heartbeat is beating within the larger body. That's also a body in the body. Heart beating is a body, breathing is a body. They're all occurring in the larger body. It means observing impermanence. All these things constantly changing, producing sensations, thoughts. Okay, now spread the legs apart about 3 feet. We'll do the twisting from side to side, holding the arms out. We'll breathe in. On the out breath, twist to the right. Keep your eyes focused on the hand going back. In breath back to the front. Let the feet turn with the body and then go to the other side with the next out breath. In breath. Then to the right, out breath. And once more to each side. Relax. Don't let the mind wander. Just keep feeling the body. Feel each foot pressing the floor. Hands touching the sides, clothing touching the skin, head balanced on top, the eyes and the socket. All those different sensations, just feeling them, how they're changing, contemplating the body and the body. Okay, one last exercise, the forward and backward bending. Keeping the hands touch the front of your legs, keeping the legs apart. Breathe in. On the out breath, bend forward, but keep the head lifted up, looking out straight ahead. Let the hands come to the knees the first time, and keep your legs straight. Feel the stretch in your hamstring muscles, flatten the spine. In breath, lift up. Move the hands under the buttocks for support. Let the head go back. On the out breath, gently bend backwards. Not too far the first time. Keep the eyes open. In breath, carefully lift up. And again, out breath, let the hands come down below the knees. Still keep the head up. Feel the extra stretch in the back of your legs. In breath. Once more, the back bend. In breath up. And third time, let the hands come down as far as you can toward the feet. And hold on to your legs or feet longer. With that stretch in the back, muscles in the back of the leg. Lift up, in breath. And one more time, the out breath, be careful. In breath. And the out breath, just relax, feel the whole body. Try to feel as though the whole body has been washed and bathed with activated life force. So all those material vibrations, cellular vibrations, feeling the body in the body. Each body sensation is its own body within one of millions within the larger body. It's really contemplating impermanence. You can now bring the Legs and feet together. And this one last exercise, the head turning from right to left. The in-breath, turn the head to the right. Look over your right shoulder. Turn your eyes further to the right. See something behind you. The out-breath, turn the head 180 degrees back to the left. Concentrate into the neck vertebrae. In-breath back to the right. In the next in-breath, let the head stop in the middle. Feel the whole body. Subtle life force vibration, material vibration, four elements. Okay, let's come back to sitting positions to get ready for the sitting meditation. So sit straight. Just try to sit straight, keeping your spine and the back of the head in a straight line. The chin lifted up level with the floor. Just gently close your eyes. Just feel the eyes in the socket. Feel the eyelids stretched over the eyeball. From that point on the eyes, feel the outline of the body. At least feel your head, the head sitting there on top. Feel the skin on the face. Feel the lips touching together. So move the attention down to the body, feeling different parts of the body. Notice, feel the shoulders, relax your shoulders. Feel the skin touching the clothing, touching the skin of the shoulder. Feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulder. The clothing touching the arm. Feel the clothing touching the skin of the chest. Might feel the breathing in the chest. All these sensations, different sensations of the body are happening in this larger body. You feel your hands and fingers where they touch together, where they touch your leg. Just feel those raw sensations, material vibration. You can feel the pulse of the blood, the finger. Now try to feel the natural inward curve of the lower spine. Just feel that inward curve. That helps to keep the upper body straight. And feel the buttocks pressing the seat. Feel that solid earth element vibration. Buttocks pressing the floor, seat. Just remind yourself of sitting. All these sensations are happening in the larger sitting body. Now feel the way your knees are bent and the legs tucked underneath. Feel the way the legs are crossed underneath or the feet pressing the floor. And just remind yourself of sitting, letting go of your thoughts, keeping the mind in the body, breathing body. Now let the awareness kind of settle again on the eyes. From that point on the eyes, try to feel the outline of the body. Just that general or vague outline. The head on top, arms at the sides, clothing touching the skin, feet pressing the floor. All those different sensations within the larger body. Now begin taking a few more breaths like we did in the yoga. 2 to 3 seconds to expand the abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Hold the air in the lungs for 2 or 3 seconds and slowly breathe out. Just take a few more breaths like that, developing this mindfulness. And breathing in, letting go of the past and future. And breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we'll count the breaths from 1 to 10 to try to develop a more continuous concentration on the breathing. I'll do the counting for you. With the next expanding in breath, mentally count to 1. Hold the air in the lungs. With the contracting out breath, also count to 1. Feel the last bit of air go out. Next in breath, 2. Out breath, 2. In 3. Out 3. In 4. Out 4. In 5. Out 5. In 6, out 6, in 7, out 7, in 8, out 8, in 9, out 9, in 10, out 10. Now discontinue the counting. Let your breathing return to its uncontrolled, shorter, irregular rhythm. You keep feeling it. Keep feeling the movements of the shorter breath, the expanding sensations, the brief pause, contracting sensation, brief pause. So knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. But knowing is the alert awareness. You know it by feeling it, feeling the sensation. Try to feel the sensations as they rub against the skin of your stomach, rib cage, and chest. As it's expanding and contracting. Just make that the primary object of your focused present moment attention. You can make these brief mental reminders to help stay clear about it. In sitting, out sitting. The ongoing, continuous process of breathing within this larger sitting body. You feel the incoming breath during the brief pause. You feel the outline of the body, contracting out breath. Feel all those sensations. The end of the out breath, again feeling the outline of the body. And the next in breath. It's contemplating the body in the body. Feeling the breathing body within the larger sitting body. Cultivating applied and sustained thought, attention. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Breath by breath, moment by moment. If the mind wanders, keep applying the attention back to the breathing. Keep applying the attention to the breathing, gradually start staying there long. Just sustain application. Just repeating the phrases, breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting. Also applied and sustained thought, but on the present moment of breathing. Even while feeling the one in breath, notice several different sensations expanding. While feeling the sitting body, you can notice several different sensations coming and going. And the sensations of the out breathing. There's always some sensations coming and going. Process of impermanence within this body. Try to notice more and more sensation connected with the breathing. And also be alert for thought. Get carried away in thoughts. Recognize it as thinking. Gently let go of the thought. Apply the attention back on the breathing. Applying thought to the breathing. Try to notice how each breath is different, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. That's how you develop a sustained attention. If you don't notice those changes and differences, that means your mind has wandered. If you still have too many thoughts, come back and take some deeper, slower breathing to help stay grounded in the body. The mind is calm and focused enough, and you can observe any painful feelings that arise or pleasant feelings. So many changing sensations. Each sensation has a feeling with it. But at the same time, be alert for thoughts moving through the back of the mind. Continuous connection to the breathing keeps the mind stabilized, not to be disturbed by various feelings, thoughts. They just come and go in the background. Breathing in, observing impermanence. Breathing out, observing impermanence. Coming and going, arising and vanishing, body sensations, pleasant or painful feelings, thought. They're all just coming and going through the breathing body, space of awareness created by the attention to the breathing body. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. So many different sensations coming and going. Painful, pleasant sensations, feelings coming and going. Perceptions, thoughts coming and going. Just arising and vanishing through that space of body-centered awareness. If we lose that connection to the breathing body and that space of awareness, contract, we get lost in our thoughts and distractions. what sensations or thoughts arise based on that contact, sound contact. Bring you back to the present moment. Sabbi sankhara anicchati yada panyaya pasati atanibindati dukhi yesamago visuddhiya. Dukkha patta ca nidukkha, bhaya patta ca nibbaya, sokha patta ca nisokha, hontu sabbi pipanino. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. They arise only to briefly last and then vanish. When one sees this with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to freedom. And may the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. In this way, may all beings live with mindfulness and wisdom. And thus spoke the Buddha. Whoever sees the Buddha sees the Dhamma. Whoever sees the Dhamma sees the Buddha. Now place your hands at the edge of the knees. Take one more deep, slow breath. Stretch the head back. Breathe in, pull the hands on the knees to arch the spine. Lift the head up on an in-breath, and the out-breath, press the chin to the top of the chest. Lift the chin up level on an in-breath. Relax on the out-breath. I invite you to join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times. Slowly do the chanting on a long out breath. Take a deep breath. Sadhu. 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 Okay, friends, so this brings our evening meditation to a close, and try to keep practicing every day during the week. Practice the M&Ms. Every time you pause and come back to the body, come back to taking a deep, slow breath, being aware of standing, breathing, that is, again, touching base with the present moment, taking refuge in the Buddha. The Buddha is really the present moment awareness. And at least one aspect of it. Okay? So, be well, be mindful, be wise. Make an island for yourself.
Thank you, Bhante. Aduh. Teruan Saranai.
Thank you, Bhante.
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 Thank all of you for having the interest to develop your minds and meditate.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay,
Good night.
see you next week.
Good night.